open it up to the audience. So we'll start with introductions. I would like to know who they are, what they do, and who they work for. We'll start with
Good afternoon. My name is Ray. My name is Ray Hightower. I run a software company in the United States called Wisdom Group. Wisdom Group. WisdomGroup.com.
My name is Ruben. I'm a freelance developer, primarily back-end Python and JavaScript, and I also have a company called Nerevu Development.
My name is Kelvin. I work as a service engineer at GitLab, which is an open source Ruby on Rails project.
My name is Eugene Otai. I work for Andela. I'm a software engineer there. I'm also a Google developer expert on web technologies, actually the only one in Africa at this moment on web tech. But we are now 9 of us across cloud platforms in Android. And I'm also an open source contributor.
Nice, nice. So what is open source, and what's the difference between open source and closed source or secret source, as Ray said yesterday?
Okay. I usually try and explain everything as simple as possible. And I'd say open source is I'm helping myself and everybody else, and I'm exposing this help in the process of what I went through, or the process of actually solving the solution that I want to solve. And I'm helping myself and everybody else is also helping me to solve this problem, and we're solving it all together and jointly, and it does not belong to me alone. This solution to this problem belongs to every one of us who is involved with the problem. And in these terms, I'm speaking about code-wise. If the problem can be solved by code. But I think I'm being biased as a software developer, but I think open source also cuts across other forms of businesses. Yeah. And then this closed source. Closed source, I usually feel is I'm being selfish because this makes me gain, or I'm being selfish because I can develop this on my own or by us only, and by doing this, we are gaining something out of it that if I let it out there, I feel that I won't gain what I'm gaining right now. So, for example, Apple.
Microsoft. Any other different definition? Simpler one?
So I'm going to approach it from the user's point of view. So Eugene kind of touched it from the developer standpoint, but as a user, I enjoy using open source software. So for example, right now I've been learning Vim, which is a text editor. But if you look at Atom, which is another open source text editor, there's lots of different pieces of software. But if I'm choosing between something open source and something not open source, a lot of times I like to support the open source software. I've also started using LibreOffice, which is an open source version that competes with Microsoft Office. So you can open Excel files, Word files, you can make presentations, but the entire software is open source. And so as a user, I like to promote open source software because to some extent, if I'm really interested, I can fix a problem myself. If I'm using Microsoft Word and I have a problem, I can't fix it myself. And then along with that, you have a community of other people who, even if you're not smart enough to fix it yourself, someone else has. So for Atom, the text editor, they have plugins. So anybody can write a plugin and you benefit from other people being able to contribute to this product. If it's something from Microsoft or Apple, you only benefit when they decide that they want to add a new feature. Another user can't add a new feature and then have you benefit from it.
Okay, cool. Another question is, do you have any open source projects, and which ones are active currently? We'll start with Ray.
Most of my work personally in the open source community is in running user groups. I run the Chicago Ruby user group. I've got a team of 15 organizers with me. We do 6 events every month, and we run conferences related to that. So most of my work personally has been in organizing, and through that, there are a ton of projects that have grown up through that. We have a GitHub repo, Chicago Ruby. It's at github.com/Chicago Ruby. And if you look at the Chicago Ruby blog at chicagoruby.org, sometimes we blog about some of the open source projects, the software projects that we're running. So that's what we do.
So I have a few open source projects. I'm on GitHub as well, under Rubano, Reubano. The one that's seen the most traction so far is called Mesa. And what it is, it's a Python-powered library for doing data analysis. And so a lot of times when I focus on back-end development and data analysis, and so a lot of times when I'm trying to solve a problem, I look to see what's available. And if I'm not satisfied with the tools that are available, then I wind up, in some cases, I contribute to something that is already a close fit, but if there isn't anything that's a close fit, I wind up creating my own libraries, and then I usually release them open source. And one thing that hasn't been touched on is called licensing. So when you release something open source, you get to choose which license. And some licenses are more restrictive than others. And usually the way I go about is if I'm building off of other libraries, then I just use the same license that they used. And then I would say another project that I recently open sourced is to help with packaging a project. So if you write in Python and you want it to be available to other people who write in Python, there's a process you go through which is called packaging. And some of the tools that are available for creating Python packages makes you jump through a lot of hoops. You go through manual processes and manual steps. So I wrote a helper library to automate a lot of those steps and make it easier for people to release packages in Python. And that one is called pkutils. But I have tens of libraries in GitHub, but it's only been recently that I've been trying to promote some of them.
Okay, personally, I work primarily most of my day is spent working on open source, since our company is fully open source. I mean, like 95%, I guess,